So I'm going to be obliged to come off the screen for a minute and just talk about this. Um, so first I made a recording and the audio was gone. I'm sorry, my accent is getting real weird. Okay, I'm practicing another language, and I'm from a country where we have English and French, so it's messing up my accent. So I'm sorry about that. So sometimes I pronounce words really weirdly, and that's just gonna be a thing in life in general. On YouTube, I'm seeing it too, and with some celebrities like Jim Carrey. And some people might have their ideas about him, but I've always thought he was a cool guy, and I've always thought he was funny. And not everybody's gonna share this opinion, but I think he's a really cool guy, and I think he was going through an awakening, and I don't think he's crazy at all. Um, but what I want to talk about in this video is intuition and ego, because I think it's very useful to talk about these things. And these are not concepts that only come from me. You're going to hear a lot of people talk about it. And let's get started. So, in this society, you wake up every day, you see yourself in the mirror, and you have a story for your life, and you have a story for who you are. And maybe look at it this way: the ego is it's the story of your life. It's the story of you. It's the story of the self. It's who you believe you are and who you tell yourself you are, who people perceive you to be. It's you, basically, in this life, in this human form. And we have our perceptions, our perspectives of the world, and we have our ideas of the world, and we see the world through our senses. And this is the ego. And we have our fears, and we have our emotions, and we have our vulnerabilities, and we have our strengths. And we rationalize and we use logic to make decisions sometimes. But sometimes there's something else that I think is really important, and it shouldn't be overshadowed ever. And it's the intuition. And the intuition is a subtle voice. It could come as a thought form, it could come as a feeling, and it could come as just a knowing of something. And the intuition is an important tool. For me, I've seen it be something useful in a sense of bringing you into a direction of expansion and growth. And sometimes it's going to bring you places where you're not even sure why you're in that situation, and it's going to bring you places where you don't even know why you're doing that, but it just kind of makes sense. And how to know that it's the intuition is it coming from a place of fear? If you're coming from a place of fear and vulnerabilities and fears about the future, that's definitely the ego speaking a lot of the times. And the intuition is a subtle knowing. It's kind of like something that just says, hey, maybe take a right, or maybe take a left instead. Or hey, maybe apply for this job. Or hey, maybe call that friend and see what's going on. Or maybe you should go down this path today instead of the other. And that's what intuition feels like. Ego, on the other hand, in my experience, and also from just learning it, of course, we live in an information age, so you have access to a lot of information. So, from my experience and from the information that I've come across, basically, but I want to talk about it on a more personal level. The ego feels more like pressure a lot of the times, or it feels like hard logic, or it feels like a yes or no, or black and white sort of. My ego tends to try to be a little more scientific. Let's just put it that way. And I think there's value in being logical and rational, but you don't have to do everything that way all the time. And it's not always right. And that's why I say you can't always logic your way out of everything, because the ego is not always right. Even though sometimes it makes the most perfect sense, and sometimes intuition doesn't seem like it makes sense at all, but you can feel that it does. And the way that your intuition is going to feel when it's saying no and yes might be different for you, but I've heard what people describe and I know how it feels for me. So if I just mix that up in this video today, intuition, when it says no, feels like I'm getting the word rigidity. I'm sorry about my accent. I know it's awkward, but intuition is rigidity when it says no. I feel a sense of being closed off, or I feel a sense of tightness around my heart chakra, around my heart space. Energetically feeling a sense of tightness and lack of expansion. That's what no feels like for me when I'm asking something and I'm trying to access my intuition and trying to come up with an answer in a more intuitive way. When it feels like expansion, and I'll get back to no as well, but I'll go to yes. So when it feels like a yes, we're talking about expansion and opening of the heart chakra. We're feeling a sense of, I'll give you an example, walking in a really hot day outside and you get into a room where there's air conditioner, but it's like the perfect amount. And you get this sense of relief and you get this sense of, yes. That's sort of what intuition feels like when it's saying yes. I think that's the best way to describe it. And when it says no, it feels a sense of, like I said, rigidity. I just want to use that word. And I'm very sorry about my accent. I know it sounds very weird, but we're going to have to just go along in this video. And it's okay to not always know why the intuition knows, or how it knows, I should say. But it does know. And I want to give a lot of respect to intuition because I think it's a real powerful and amazing thing. It could lead you to such amazing paths, even if sometimes like it's not going to be 100% fun, but sometimes it leads you to really amazing things. And it's usually 100% right. I've never experienced a situation where my intuition was wrong. And it's important to know the difference between ego and intuition. So if it's coming from a place of fear, is usually ego. Rationalizing is usually ego. I want to say always, even using logic, coming up with ideas, coming up with why you should do this, things like that. Explaining to yourself why this is what you need to do. That's usually the ego. I want to say 100% of the time it is the ego. And intuition is usually just a knowing. You just know. Have you ever just talked to someone and you tell them something and they ask you, hey, how do you know that? And you don't know how you know, you just know. That's the intuition. Or have you ever just answered something on a test and you didn't really know why you knew that, but you just did, and it turns out the answer was correct? It's the intuition. So I might go more into depth about this, and I really wanted to make a visual video for this and like be on screen, but my iPad is dying, and I don't know, there's so many technical difficulties for this video, but I really want it to be out there. So we're gonna end this here because I've been talking for 9 minutes, and I hope this is a useful video. Hope it's a good topic, and I hope that whoever is listening to this will be able to use this as in a practical way. I hope this video goes on YouTube. It might not. We'll see how it goes. End of recording. Okay, so I guess this angle works for me because I don't have to you know what I mean. Okay. So in this video, I want to talk about intuition and the ego because I think it's an important topic, and maybe I should put a blue effect because it's going to make me I'm Pennywise, the dancing clown. This effect makes me look real weird. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's start this video because I've made this video so many times. We're gonna do something a little different, and I know you guys aren't used to this, but maybe I could film with this darkness. Speaking of ego, I think my ego is finally getting to me in this video. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make it anyways. Is it gonna work? I don't know.